Jon.
Talk politics now. South Carolina Governor Mark Sanford, who admitted to an extramarital affair, now says he decided not to resign his governorship because that would be taking the easy way out. The woman, 41-year-old Maria Belen Shapour, has now acknowledged their relationship but says she will not talk about her private life. Meanwhile, Sanford says he's sticking it out amid calls for his resignation. The scandal likely has torpedoed his chances to win the Republican presidential nomination in 2012. He had been talked about as one of the likely contenders. So who else might get the GOP nod? Let's argue that out with Richard Goodstein. He was an advisor to the Clinton-Gore campaign. Pete Seat was a White House spokesman during the George W. Bush administration. Guys, welcome. It's a long way to 2012, Pete, but let's start with you. Who do you see as being the front runner?
Well, one thing to point out first is that neither party is immune to the issues that Mark Sanford is facing right now. And so ultimately, I don't think it's going to affect the 2010 or 2012 campaigns as an issue itself. Obviously, for Sanford, it's not a good thing personally. But there are a lot of potential contenders out there. But the way the Republican playing field is right now, it really allows for someone that isn't relatively known right now to come up and make a name for themselves. When you consider that the only real household names right now are perhaps Romney, Palin, and Huckabee, and all the other names that we discuss, Jindal and Pawlenty and Daniels and Barber, while they're known in Republican circles and insiders in Washington, they really aren't known on a broader scale nationally.
Worth pointing out, Richard, that the name of Barack Obama was barely known 3 or 4 years ago.
Right. Now, he had given that speech at the 2004 Democratic Convention that electrified a lot of people who heard it, and at that point got people talking about it. It seemed awfully early, but even after the 2006 elections, when he obviously was putting a campaign together, it seemed rather improbable. So Pete's right. It may well be that the leader of the pack in 2012 is somebody we've never heard of. And I think that would actually be to the advantage of the Republicans, because let's talk about the people who we do think is the head of the pack. Mitt Romney, and the question about him is he seems so strong and well-spoken, is which Mitt Romney are we going to get? Is it the one who tried to kowtow to the base, or the one who was that rather moderate Republican governor of Massachusetts? Sarah Palin did not acquit herself particularly well, but is a very compelling figure. But the polls after the election showed her to be a drag on that ticket. And Newt Gingrich, if Mark Sanford can be undone by this, Newt's got real problems on the hypocrisy front. But those are definitely the people that seem to be the top tier right now.
Pete, given what's happened with the economy, does that give somebody like Mitt Romney, with his extensive business experience, turnaround experience, does that give him the edge?
Absolutely. Mitt Romney has great business credentials. Tim Pawlenty, governor of Minnesota, has balanced their budget without raising taxes. The governor of Indiana, although he says he has no plans or intentions to run for president, same thing. He's got a very good economic record in Indiana, and right now they're in the midst of a budget battle. So there are a number of candidates out there that can really take the economic mantle in 2012.
Richard, Pete was talking about the fact that so many of these Republicans, John Ensign, Mark Sanford, may have shot themselves in the foot, may have eliminated themselves from contention.
Right.
If they were Democratic office holders, is there a different standard? Do the media play it up hard, bigger? Is the bar higher? Why is that?
I saw Brit Hume yesterday on the Fox Sunday show saying how the Republicans are more censorious about this kind of behavior than Democrats. Excuse me, that's nonsense. What the difference is hypocrisy. I will, and I've been looking for him around the studio today, and I will next time I see him, because one party, the Republicans, talking about the party of family values, and then you've got a President Obama in the White House who lives family values. And I think that's what's going to hurt Republicans, because when you talk family values and you don't walk that walk, as we see with Ensign. And look, Mark Foley cost them big time in 2006, and Sanford. And, again, I think Newt's got to kind of start thinking, is this really the climate in which I want to step out and kind of rehash a lot of things that aren't very pretty? So I don't think it's that one party is kind of more pure than the others. Of course, both parties have Mark Sanford to kind of worry about. But one party kind of fashions itself as somehow being above that and better and lecturing people, the Republicans, Sarah Palin talking about abstinence when her daughter is getting pregnant, and the Democrats, yes, being more tolerant. And I will say in closing, I think this will help the Republicans because to the extent that family values was perceived by the public, they saw that as kind of intolerance.
All right. Well,
and I think if they stop talking about it, they'll be better off.
Pete, does that afflict the entire party, or does it afflict individual candidates on the GOP side?
Definitely individual candidates. I mean, you look at the governor's race in New Jersey, where the Republican is polling double digits above the incumbent governor, and they're not going to look at this as, oh, well, Mark Sanford's a Republican, I'm not going to vote for the Republican candidate for governor. They're going to look at this as, you know, two candidates vying for the position, and not necessarily what parties they come from, but what they bring to the race as potential candidates for governor. Same with Virginia. By 2010, Sanford and Ensign won't even be mentioned. They aren't going to, matter when it comes to the electorate and during the midterm election.
Richard, one guy we haven't mentioned is Haley Barbour, governor of Mississippi,
Right.
Former chairman of the Republican National Committee. Pretty good political strategist. Is he the guy that perhaps Democrats fear the most?
Well, he is a very appealing personal figure, and he's smart enough that he could probably wend his way through the process. But the question is, if Obama is successful in sort of saying he's changing the tone in Washington, talking about lobbyists and so forth, when Haley Barbour himself was for many, many years made his living as a Washington insider lobbyist, I question whether being governor of Mississippi all these years kind of cleanses him of that, or whether indeed that's the burden that some Democrats will make it out to be.
All right, Richard Goodstein and Pete Seat, thank you both.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.